Let's get a songbook and turn to page 657. 657. Brother Clark, would you open with the word of prayer?
Lord, we thank you that we can come here this evening together as believers. We thank you for your Holy Spirit that does dwell in our hearts and reveal to us those things that need to be changed. And we thank you for the power of the Holy Spirit to change our lives. And thank you again for Pastor preaching on the blood that it cleanses us from all sin. Help us this evening to look into your word and to enjoy the thoughts and the closeness of your spirit. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Good to see everybody back tonight. And I do not believe this. This is not next week will be a new month, but we should have prayer lists still some left back there if you need any. And things going on tomorrow. Not tomorrow. This is Wednesday. Friday night we're having the trunk or treat. And you be praying about it. Try to come, and if you can, and be part of it. And one thing we're going to do, we're going to be handing out these little visitor booklets. There's quite a bit of material in here. It tells a little bit about the school in here. It tells a little bit about the church. Got a few tracts. Now, I did notice when they was putting them together today, Mr. Polster back here was putting some of them together. Some of them, of all things, the front page has got my picture, and they had them missing. Now, I don't understand that. I think there was some shenanigans going on, but it just could have been they've just run out of them. I don't know, but you let people know when they get these. These are good things. You put this underneath. If you nothing else, put this under your sink. It'll run all the bugs out, and so it's good for something. So, but we're going to be passing them out. You be praying that things will go well. It's amazing sometimes how people hear about a church or how they get involved in the church. Sometimes it's just through little things like this, and but usually, as I said Sunday, most people come because somebody invited them, and so as they come through for different things, and we've got a magic show goes on. I think 2 different magic shows, or maybe not different, but 2 of them that's going on. One at 6:30, one at 7, if I'm not mistaken, and they will be worth it. And so, and then there's food. That's always worth coming for. So things happening, but at the same time, there's our Cloverdale's football team's done something they usually don't do. They're still playing, and so that's going to maybe draw some away. And then I think there's some activities going on in Cloverdale also. So believe it or not, as small as Cloverdale is, it's still bigger than Q-Not. And so we're going to have to, we might lose a few, but anyhow, we'll get some to come through. That's all I know about all that. There's probably some other announcements I was supposed to have been making that I'm not thinking of here. I'm looking real quick. Don't see any. If you got a prayer list, let's go to it and look at some things. We sent you a message early. I didn't on Monday about Mrs. Jones passed away, and I did see that her funeral will be this Saturday. Many of you didn't know her. That she is Brother Kermit and Sister Maggie's. It would be their son's mother-in-law passed away. They've been around here their whole life, and if you've been around here a long time, you knew the Joneses, and they're just a good family, good couple. So she's had dementia for a few years and really been struggling, and his health is very bad. So pray for the Jones family, especially Ron Jones, and as they go. What's that? Yeah, Saturday at 1 o'clock. 11 to 1 is visitation, 1 o'clock here in Cloverdale. So for those of you who might know the Jones family, they would appreciate you stopping in there. And then I don't know if these guys here, they're having to fill in. What about Mr. Mayfield? You guys doing his work for him until he can get recovered? Did he do it all right with his hip surgery? He did do good? Okay. Yeah. Well, tell him we need him back as quick as we can, because Rance is back on the soccer team now, but I need a few more players. So once he gets healed up, we'll get him back in there. So, but yeah, pray for Chris Mayfield. He had hip surgery. What else going on out here? Yes, ma'am. Okay, Debbie Fouts. F-A-U-S-T. F-A-U-S-T. Some of you wonder why we holler so much. It's because people's on YouTube and I don't hear anything. So they holler so I can hear. And then I say it so the people out there can hear. And then when we get done, there'll be 5 or 6 people say, I never heard that. So, yes, ma'am.
My sister-in-law, Gloria Combs, will be having a dramatic shoulder surgery on November the 10th.
Okay.
Put her on the prayer list just for, she's getting a little anxious, and she just needs a little bit of peace going into this.
Okay. Gloria Combs. Now, she might be listening tonight, so we'll just go ahead and let her know shoulder surgeries are a piece of cake.
Well, she's had it, the other one, she had the left one done.
Okay, then she knows I'm lying. Well, if she's already had it, there ain't no sense in me throwing that out, so. Yes, we did have a fellow in the church here a while back. He had both knees replaced, not at the same time, but he had both knees replaced. He had a hip replaced, and then he had his shoulders replaced. And he said, the hips was the easiest, the knees was tough, the shoulders was much worse than both of them together. So, but I can't even imagine having that many parts put in me. Just the thought of it. Yes, sir? Okay.
I think you could probably take her off the cancer list, but she still does some fence, but she's been
Okay, so move Toria Maldonado off the cancer list, put her over on the sick list for now. Yes, ma'am?
And my brother-in-law, Robert Harris, we have him on there on the sick list. He had the shoulder surgery a couple months ago, and my sister says he is healing well. But my nephew, Daniel Harris, who has had the cornea replacement surgery, twice with the donor corneas and once with an artificial cornea, says he's not doing well with that.
Okay, his name again?
Is Daniel Harris.
Daniel Harris.
And he's on the sick list there too.
Oh, he is on there too. Yeah, I was going to say, I've got him right there.
Yeah,
Okay.
But, Robert's doing well.
My uncle right below that, Pastor Robert Haefling, is also doing well.
Okay. My wife's not in here, and she got the information, but a young lady that used to come to church here, and I don't even know if it's getting announced now because we're on YouTube, but Brittany niece that used to come here, I don't know what her last name is now since she got married. I actually did the wedding, but I don't remember what her last name is. But she had to have, and I don't know, she had to have, I think she had to have both breasts removed, and as far as I know, everything went okay. That was yesterday. But if you just pray for Brittany niece, and if I ever figure out what her real last name is, I'll let you know. Hardy?
That's what Karen told me.
Okay. So Karen is talking about it. So I guess I didn't have to keep it a secret. Some people don't like you to know when they're having surgeries and things. And Brittany Hardy had just come to me. She's pretty young, yes. I'm trying to think what, she's younger than Brian, I think. Anything else going on? Everybody excited about winter? We live in a bad place for winter because if you go out and spend all the money to get snow removal stuff and then you don't get snow for 5 years, you've just lost all your money. So you need to, if you're going to do snow removal, you need to move farther north where they get it no matter what. But we still get enough cold weather that you can't really enjoy. I don't know where it stays about right. Okay, we will come back to this here in just a little bit to our prayer list, and we'll finish out our service with that. If you got your Bibles tonight, let's turn to Psalms chapter number 37. Psalms 37, we'll look at a few verses in here, but I started reading this chapter, and I kind of probably took it in maybe a little bit different direction than what maybe they was intended. But I thought about it. I get reading. I don't know about you, but I kind of I just like to be happy. I think most people would like to say I like to be happy, but I think the problem is a lot of people believe that happiness is found in certain things. Some people think that it's found in money. Some people think it's found in having a name, being somebody, and Some people think it's found in having some power or some authority. And so that's the reason that the lottery winners, they're the envy of the nation, because they got the money. And that's the reason that the Hollywood celebrities, they've always got people that's listening to everything they got to say, like they're actually, because they're a Hollywood celebrity, they actually know something more than other people. And that's the reason why you see powerful politicians that usually get their way. But the truth is, I don't think any of those people really have found happiness. And the reason is because they're on the wrong path if that's what they're trying to find. Now, there's nothing wrong with having money, and there's nothing wrong with having a name, and there's nothing wrong with being in a place of authority. But if that's what you're looking for to be happy, then I don't think you're going to come out being happy. I don't think it happens. This psalm, and this is why I like this psalm, it's kind of different in kind of psalm in that instead of telling us, okay, this is what you need to do if you're going to achieve what's good, or if you're going to achieve happiness or achieve good things, you need to do this. It doesn't say that. Instead, it tells us this is what you need to avoid. If you stay away from these things, then you've put yourself in a position where God can bless you with happiness. A lot of people are not happy because they put themselves in a position where God can't bless them like he would like to. And so we get ourselves in trouble. So there's things that he says that we ought to avoid. I see 5 of them in here that I'd say we need to avoid these areas or these different things if we want to get to the place where God can send blessings to us in the life. And the first one is actually here. It starts in verse number 1. I would call it, this is the fret nots. Now, I don't use the word fret a lot, and so I had to look it up because when I think of it something different. But 3 times in this one psalm we're told the fret not. Anybody ever tell you that? I think I have maybe had a few people tell me that. But verse 1 says this: fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. Then down in verse number 7 it says, rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in his way, because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass. And then in verse 8 it says, cease from anger and forsake wrath, and fret not thyself in any wise to do evil. So when I think of fret, in my mind I think of the word worry. A lot of people fret about things, and I guess I have used that word more than I thought about. But there's folks that they're always fretting over things, and they're always worried about things. But the common meaning of the word in these verses, in this part of the Bible, is not worry at all. It has to do more with anger. And he's simply saying here, in order for you to get yourself in a position where God can give you happiness and send it your way, we can't allow ourselves to be angry. First of all, there it says in verse 1, because of evildoers, people who prosper because of their wickedness. And there are people like that. We live in a world where people actually do it wrong. I mean, a good example of that where you hear all the time on the news about the drug cartels. Well, they're not helping people, but they're making a lot of money. So they're prospering by doing everything that's wrong, and then they just continue to do more evil. And he says we can't fret about that. We can't let ourselves get angry about that and get ourselves worked up too much over that. And why is that? Well, because I can't fix it. Can you? So outside of prayer, that's about all. The only thing that's all we can do. We can pray about situations like that. And now some people seem surprised by this, but believe it or not, evil has existed for a long time. It was here before the world was. Satan sinned before the God ever created this world. Satan had already, as Lucifer, he had already turned against God and tried to be like God. And yet God allowed him to still exist. God allows him to exist today. He's allowed to come in there and bother you if he wants to. And he's only allowed to do so many things. God's still in control of him. But he does do those things. And so he was allowed to enter into the Garden of Eden and to cause man to stumble. Now, it was man's fault because he made that choice, but he still, if the choice hadn't been there, he wouldn't have done it. And evil will exist up until the very time of the Lord. In fact, if you think about it, when the Lord comes back, there's still going to be 1,000 more years after that where the people, they may not do things because they can't. And I'm not going to get into all the way that's going to be for the 1,000-year reign of the Lord. But at the end of that 1,000 years, there's people who want to fight him again. So obviously for the 1,000 years, there's people didn't like the way he was ruling things. And it's not much of a battle. You can read that for yourself sometime. So he's just helping us to see that evil and wicked men, that's part of the landscape. It's where we live. Now, I don't like it, and I'm not cheerful about it. But I try to use it as a reminder that God's going to judge this world, and God's going to judge wrong. Nobody gets by with it. Nobody gets away with those things, and so it helps. It's a reminder to me, and also it's a reminder that sin is universal. It's everywhere. It's in all of us. It's part of us. But I like what the psalmist said. I'll read this verse to you over in Psalms 131. He said, Lord, my heart is not haughty, nor mine eyes lofty. And then he says, neither do I exercise myself in great matters or in things too high for me. So it's sort of like he's taking his own advice here. And he says, here's what I do. I'm just going to deal with the things that I can be responsible for, that I can control, like my pride. I'm not going to be haughty. I'm not going to be lifted up. I'm not going to do that. My own sins, I'm going to deal with them. And I'm going to do my best not to get upset and not to get completely angry over things that's beyond my control. Now, I don't think that means we should not stand against what's wrong. I think we ought to. But can we do that without the anger? Can we do that without the hatred? And it's obvious today, if people people disagree with you, they think the solution for a lot of them is, okay, we'll shoot you, or we'll beat the tar out of you, we'll burn your city, or we'll do something like that. And that's what he's saying. I can do this, and so, but by doing this, by being able to stand against wrong, but yet not fret, I guess you could say, not get so angry. Then he says, by doing that, we can allow ourselves to dwell more on God's goodness. It's a whole lot easier to get up of a morning and think about how good God's been than think about, you know what, my neighbor did this again, and they got by with this. And that's where a lot of people are. We do a lot of fretting about what people are getting by with, and we do it in politics. We do it in everything. And we focus so much on man's wickedness, we can't enjoy what God's done. And so yes, stand against what's wrong, but do so without the anger. Now, I don't think this is the way it's supposed to be, but when I was writing this down, this is the way my mind thinks, and it's a sad thing, but this is the way it works. Do you remember the old cartoon where the coyote is out there trying to get the sheep, and the sheepdog's there? And I mean, they're just there. For one thing, the coyote never wins. He always gets the worst. But at the end of the day, what happens? They clock out, and the coyote, see you tomorrow. They go on now. Well, we can't really do that with wicked people and things in this world, but we have to understand that they're here. And they exist. We stand against them, but we cannot let ourselves get to the place where we can't function and God can't bless us. And so I call it the fret knots. But then in verse number 25, he makes this statement. He said, I've been young, and now I'm old. Yet have I not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. I call this the fear knots. I made them all knots just so it would work out. They're not all with an F, but they're all knots at the end. So I've got the fret knots, and I use his idea for that, but these are the fear knots. And I think about this. David's writing this. For years, David learned how to lean on the Lord. When David stood there against a Goliath, or when he went out against Goliath, or even when he told the soldiers before he went out, he said, I'll go fight him. Do you think David thought he was that good of a fighter? I don't think he did. I just think David thought God was that good of a fighter, and he trusted God that much. I don't think he had confidence in himself at all. In fact, he even told that giant that he said, the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and something along that line. And so when he fought that Goliath, his confidence was in the Lord. He learned to trust and lean on God. And then later, God's anointed him to be king, but he's got to wait for Saul to be not king, and Saul hates him, and so Saul's trying to kill him, and Saul's got the army chasing him, and he's running all over the country, and he's hiding in this place, and he's going to this cave, and he's hiding here. Do you think that David might have told those men with him, listen, it doesn't matter, they can't whoop me if they catch me? I don't think that. I think David had his confidence. He said, God will protect me, but it's not me. It never was in David. And then even after that, after he gets to be king, then his son rebels on him, and he's running again from his son. Now, I do think that from some things I've read that he says, I really think that David knew if Absalom and me come head to head, I'm going to have to kill my own son, so I'm just going to run. I'd rather not kill my own son. In fact, he told his men, don't kill him, and they did kill him. And he wasn't a bit happy about it, but the fact is, his confidence in all these situations was in that God will take care of things. But now he writes here, he said, I've been young, and most of those things was happening when he was young. He says, and now I'm old. And I think, and maybe this is just me reading this, but I think maybe as David gets older, maybe instead of this, maybe it's just what happens to me as I get older, because I know I'm old now, and I don't know where I got old. I used to be just a kid, and now I'm old. And but I think as David gets older, I think he could sense something that was starting to bother him. I think he had a sense of a growing uncertainty and maybe anxiety about the future, because that happens when you start getting older. And because he makes that statement, I was young and now I'm old, and he's reminding himself, fear not, as I say, because God had not changed. The same God that was with him when he fought Goliath was still there, and God was just as capable today, but David's changed. And this is what I found to be true, maybe just in myself, but I see it in others, because I talk to a lot of people. And but as you get older, you get concerned about two things in particular. As you get older, you get concerned about your health a little more, and you get concerned about your wealth. That's the two things that gets on your mind a lot. And now young people, when I was 20, I didn't think about anything like that. I was a little bit concerned sometimes when I got laid off that things wasn't going to meet too well, but I wasn't too concerned about those when you're young, because you think, well, you don't feel like you're ever going to end. You feel like when you're young, you're going to live forever. I mean, there's never going to be an end to it. It's going to take forever for me to be old, and so you don't think this way. And so you got plenty of time. I got plenty of time to make money. I've got plenty of time to enjoy these things. So you don't think too much about it. But then when you turn 40, reality starts setting in a little bit. And you start realizing, you know what? One of the things about reality is I realize I can't do some of the things I used to do. I want to, but I don't even try them. And when you get older than that, it just becomes obvious. I'm not even going to attempt to try them. But then when you turn 50, and these are just numbers I threw out because I'm trying to think back how things was when I went through those years. But when you turn 50, you do start thinking about, I am going to retire one of these days. Or I wonder if maybe I'm going to retire. I wonder if I'll ever be able to retire. And wonder if I'll be able to retire early. And I remember there used to be a fellow that I played some golf with, and he was 50, and he'd already retired. He was drawing full retirement, and he was out there playing golf every day. And I thought, I don't think that's ever going to work for anybody else. I don't know too many people that could do it at 50, but he was able to do that. And so you're wondering, am I going to be able to retire early, or am I even going to be able to retire? Am I going to have to move in with the kids? That's a good one. We talk about that all. And it's pretty well accepted that I'm not moving in with any of them, and it's not my choice. It's their choice. No. But those things start running through your mind. And so I don't think David really relished the idea that he's getting old. I don't think anybody really does. We talk about it and we say things, but all the changes, I mean, you think about it now, what is a big day? I got 2 doctor visits today, so we're going to visit 2 doctors, and then we'll stop and get us a shake on the way home or something. I don't know, but it changes. Things change, and so David's having to deal with some of the symptoms of old age, but here's what he's learned. He said, I was young, but now I'm old, and I've never seen, he said, I have not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. He said, you know what? I'm not going to worry about it. I don't really like getting old, but I'm not going to be full of fear and live in fright that I can't get by. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to say, this is a part of life that God put me here, so I'm going to embrace it, and I'm going to turn it over to God. And so for him, he was saying, God's going to become my source of strength, which I'm going to mention that here in a minute in another thought. And I'm just going to keep God in the forefront of my thoughts. I'm going to, is the choices I'm making at this age, are they pleasing to God? I'm going to keep those things going. And it'll be, God will be my family. He'll be my fortune. He'll be my friend. And really what happened was by David getting his future settled as far in his heart and in his mind, then he wasn't afraid. He wasn't fretting every day. He didn't get up and I like to tell you, but you could ask my wife, you would be amazed how many budgets I do a month. It's not like they're changing, my finances are changing much, but I tell her, I said, we better figure this in. Let's sit down and do another budget. I just told her the other day, I said, get the paperwork out, let's do another budget. She just starts laughing. And but if we ever go broke, it won't be because I didn't do a budget. I'm figuring them things out like crazy. And I think I'm trying to figure ways that I can still go and eat at restaurants a lot. I don't know if that's it or not, but I figure those budgets. So I don't know. I don't think I'm worried about the future, but I do have a lot of plans and a lot of things. But David, he sort of chased all those fears away. So he said, you know what? Now I can enjoy life. I can enjoy the moment. And I think it'd be a good thing for us to just remember that because fear not. Sometimes we get afraid of things in the future, and we begin to do the fretting and all that. And he said, I'm just going to enjoy the moment, and I'm going to be able to enjoy the happiness that God sends. And we can all do that. Nobody is able, at our age, if you're anything older than like myself, you're not going to be able to do the things you used to do. But life changes. You just adjust to what you can do. Okay, I can't do those things, so I won't do them. I'll do some other things. And it's probably easier to say than it is to do, but it's something you have to get used to. But then there's a third one. Now we're down in verse 35. I have the fret not and the fear not. And here I call this one forget not. He says, verse 35, I've seen the wicked in great power and spreading himself like a green bay tree. Yet he passed away. And lo, he was not. Yea, I sought him, but he could not be found. Could I tell you what, when you get older, you have a powerful perspective on life that younger people cannot appreciate. It's called history. They can't because they don't have that. When you get older, you've got all kinds of experiences and things that you've been through in your life, and you can look back on them, and you can recognize, you know what, I can see now where God had his hand in this. I've often talked about, I worked for several years in a factory as a supervisor. I didn't start out as a supervisor. I started out on the production line, and I had no intent of ever being a supervisor. I never wanted to be in charge of anybody, never anything. But they came and talked to me about it, and somehow they talked, I think because I was getting laid off all the time the other way, I decided this might not be a bad plan. But then I look back on it afterwards, not realizing God was going to call me to preach in a few years, and I think, yeah, I can understand this. He was teaching me some things on how to be a leader and a lot of different things, and so I can see all that now. But young people don't have that to look back on. So we've got that experience. And David says, you know what? I remember when all those wicked people was in charge. And I can remember when they was prospering. And man, it seemed unfair. But he says, you know, now that time has passed, I can see a little bit beyond that prosperity now because they're gone. Where are they at? Nothing. Time has a way of evening the score and changing things. And I thought about this. There was a man here in Cloverdale when I grew up. Everybody thought he was somebody. I thought he was somebody. Everybody talked about it. He was somebody. And he thought he was somebody. And I don't know, you would say he was not necessarily a man in power, but everybody looked up to him. But also everybody knew he didn't have any morals. He didn't care for anybody else. And a few years ago when they had his funeral, they said nobody showed up. The man who had everything, nobody was there. Time has a way of evening things out. Now, I would say this, and again, as I say, as you get older, you got experiences you can look back on that young people can't. That doesn't mean when you get older that you necessarily have the answers to everything, because you may have got them wrong while you're going through, but you do have more experience to look back, and you have the opportunity to see, I can see how God was working here, and I see what God was doing. And I think happiness comes for a lot of us when we look back and we can say, you know what? I can see where God never left us. I can see where God had his hand and is protecting us and watching over us and all this. And some people never do that. I like to do it. I like to look back and see how God worked. And yes, there's still things I can look back and say, I still don't understand why it went this way. And I don't have to understand to trust God. You don't have to understand everything. But I do know he doesn't make mistakes. I don't understand why he does certain things, but I know I can trust him. So I can look back and I realize he's never failed us. And by doing that, it makes it right now, you can be a lot more joy, a lot more happiness. Your future, you can have a lot more happiness because you're not worried about stuff. You think, well, you know what? And I think the McBrides used to sing a song, "The Past is a Promise." Last time, and I've told people this before, I remember people coming to my office and say, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this. And here's my question to them. Have you ever been in anything, have you ever faced anything in your life that you thought was just about as bad as this and you didn't think you'd make it? And usually they say, well, yes. And I said, and yet you're sitting here today. So God got you through it there, and he'll get you through it today. You just have to trust him. And that's what I'm saying. David said, well, I'm not going to forget the way things was, and now it is. So I'm not going to forget that. He said, I need to hang on to that. So we have the fret not, and the fear not, and the forget not. Then verse 39, it kind of goes along with all the other. I would call it faint not. He says, but the salvation of the righteous is of the Lord. He is their strength in time of trouble. If you remember, if you've read the book of Job, Job tells us that trouble, that's just part of life, natural part of life. Now, it's strange because the Bible tells us if you're saved, especially, is to expect trouble. And yet, a lot of times as Christians, we are surprised when trouble comes. And we question God, how could you let this happen? When God already told us in the world you need to expect tribulation. You need to expect troubles and things here in this world. And Job says it's a natural part of life. He says it's as certain as the sparks that fly upward. So here's my question. How can you be happy if there's continually going to be troubles and things come in your life? How can you do that? Well, the secret, I think, to all of that is in where the source of strength to get through those troubles is. If your source of strength is, I've got to get this figured out, and I've got to be on top of all this, and I've got to be able to whoop this, and I got to be clever enough, and I got to have enough wisdom, I can tell you what's going to happen. You're going to get discouraged. For one, God doesn't want you leaning on your own understanding and your own strength, so he'll see to it that you come to the end of your rope. That'll be one thing God will do for you. He'll help you to come to the end of your rope. But if we could learn to just take everything, whatever comes our way, and again, it sounds easy when I'm saying it like this, but just whatever it is that comes our way, just learn, first thing, I take it to God. I talk with him about it. I turn it over to him, all my burdens, all my cares. And if you'll do that, you'll find a lot of occasions where you'll just find, thank you, Lord, for your blessings. You can start thanking, and you'll see all those things, and you can discover happiness in the process. And so that's the faint not. Get your strength from the Lord. Don't faint. Don't depend on self. Get it from the Lord to get through the tough times. And then the last one's in verse number 40. And the Lord shall help them and deliver them. He shall deliver them from the wicked and save them because they trust in him. I call this the dreadnought. Now, I don't know. I talked to a lot of people, and it seems to me like men always at age, they worry about 40, turning 40. But I talked to a lot of ladies down through the years. They start worrying about 30. You're still a kid at 30. I didn't think that when I was 20, but I do now. And you're still a kid at 30, but there's a lot of women who they dread turning 30, and a whole lot more men who dread turning 40. And I know a lot of Christians who dread trying to talk to someone about Christ. I even know some who dread coming to church. What does it mean to dread something? Well, it means there's something coming up that I'm kind of worried about. I'm kind of uneasy about it. Some future event's coming up. So really it's an attitude problem. It's something that we have to take care of, because if we don't, there's always going to bring discouragement. If you let something that's down the road always cause you uneasiness and cause you worry, you're going to get a lot of discouragement. And here's what the Bible says in 1 Chronicles chapter 22. It says, then shalt thou prosper, if thou takest heed to fulfill the statutes and judgments which the Lord charged Moses with concerning Israel. Be strong and have a good courage. And then he says, dread not, nor be dismayed. So how can we do this? How can we change if you've got an attitude, things down the road, and I kid people about this. People will say, well, I need to talk to you next Friday. I've got that doom and gloom out. if you need to talk to me next Friday, tell me now what you need to talk to me about next Friday, because otherwise from now to Friday, I'm going to think of 2,000 things that's got you upset. And you may not even be upset. You may be coming to say, just want to give you $1,000. And I worried all week not knowing I was going to get that. So I guess I'm one of those people here where I dread things. So how can you change the doom and gloom attitude about the future, about something you're not certain about in front? How do you change it? Well, we just seen this. In verse number 3, we trust in the Lord. In verse 4, we delight thyself also in the Lord. What's that mean? I'm enjoying what I'm doing for the Lord. I'm enjoying trying to be pleasing to the Lord. I'm not enduring it. I'm enjoying it. Verse number 5, commit thy way into the Lord. What's that mean? I'm not going to try to figure everything out. I'm just going to turn it over to God and let him tell me which way to go and how to do things. I'm going to commit it to him. Verse number 7, rest in the Lord. I'm not going to wrestle with everything. Things come. I'm just going to talk. It's sort of the same thing I just said. I'm going to walk with the Lord. I'm going to trust him with it. Turn it over to him. Then verse number 34, it says, wait on the Lord. Now we often think wait. Okay, that means I sit down and wait. No, if you wait on somebody in a restaurant, that means you're doing everything. You're busy here. You're busy there. You're doing all these things that needs to be done, because that's part of waiting, and that's what we do with the Lord. So really, when it comes to happiness, which is what I pick out of this chapter, it's basically a byproduct. It's something that you get because you've learned to trust God. So you can be happy. You can have a peace about it. You don't fret about everything. You don't worry about everything. You're not afraid of everything. And so if I really believe that God is who he says he is, then I can trust him. If not, then I have to trust myself to be the solution for everything. And anything then that would cause me to fret or to fear or to faint or to dread, I got to figure out a way. Or I can just turn all those things over to God and just enjoy life, enjoy what he's given me for the day. And so my thought for you tonight is, let's learn to enjoy where God's put us. Even if it's in a tough time, we know God's doing what's right. So just trust him and enjoy what he's got for us in our life. Now, with that said, most everybody, as I'll remind you again, Wednesday night is the night you want to come to church, because on Sunday morning, I went over by almost 10 minutes. But here it is on Wednesday night, it's 1:45, and I'm done. And so this is when people should be here. I don't know why the place is not packed out, but I do appreciate you being here. And if you have a prayer list there with you, if you want to just spend just a few moments there in your seat praying over part of that list, and then when you're finished, you're dismissed. And I thank you again for being here. Come on Friday night, and I don't know what all is going to be going on, but at least get to the gym if you don't want to walk around. Yeah, we'll have some trunks out there, and I hope you're in on some of the trunks. If you're not, it's not too late. We don't need ghosts and goblins or anything much like that, but there's all kinds of things. You could be Aunt Bee and Andy Griffith or something. I don't know, but you want to be something and you want to dress up or do something like that, that'd be great. And we'll have some trunks out there. Let's go to prayer.